We begin the Gemara Daf Mesechta Yevamos Daf Kof Aleph. We begin on the top of the Amud, where we are finishing off the discussion of the previous Mishnah, which was the theme of Mishnayos regarding what we call taroibos, these mixtures of sons that we don't know their paternity, either because of the woman herself, from the first husband to the second husband, didn't wait a certain amount of time, or because they were born in the cave. And we're finishing up discussing regarding what happens as it relates to his fathers, in regards to if they're both kahanim, or regarding regular fathers, if he hits them or curses them, what the liability is going to be or not be, depending on the circumstances. Today's daf. Something we're discussing in today's daf are hasra safek, regarding a warning that's a doubtful warning, because you don't know definitively if he's violating this isser. Then we begin the next paragraph, the machlokes regarding chalitza b'shleisha. Chalitza requires 3 dayanim. Bezin has to be clean from any blemish. And finally, when a ger may be a dai. So we begin the current daf, Daf Kof Aleph, top line of the Amud, where in the previous daf we mentioned this case of Savik ben Tisha L'Rishon ben Shibla. The woman had been with one man, and then before she waited 3 months, she was with another man. Now she has a child. We don't know who the father is. So on that we discussed Hayshnim Kahanim B'chulu, which really is on the B'chulu part. It's not really so much that the 2 fathers are Kahanim, it's more about the Tetra, which was, let's say he hits or curses his father, which is generally liability. He says, give me an exempt, because you don't know who it is that he hit, and he might not be hitting his father. Now, the Bryce elaborates on this and says as follows. So that's if, let's say, he hits one of them, because you don't know who it is. But let's say let's say he hits one of the men, and then he goes and hits the other one. Or he curses one and he curses the other one. Or, as Tais discusses why we're saying in this order, but this is what's called loizu absu, is kilushlim b'vasachas. Then he curses both of them at the same time. Both of you, and he talks, he kushlim b'vasachas, he hits both of them at the same time. So says the Bryce, although he said in the Mishnah that you're going to be patur because you don't know who your father is, he hitting both of them, cursing both of them. Are they at the same time or one after another? So chayiv, you're going to be liable because for sure one of them is his father, and if you sure hit him, so it says in Tanakama you're going to be chayiv. Rabbi Yehuda says no. Bevas achas, if you took one stick and you with one shmas, with one hit, you hit both of them, then chayiv, then you're liable, because when the witnesses are warning you, say don't do this is your father, that's a definite warning. Don't hit both of them, because with this hitting you're going to be chayiv. But bezachar zapater. But if it was one after another consecutive, then you're going to be patur, because then obviously there's 2 actions. You have to give 2 warnings. Every single warning is a suffix. Let's
say he's in a dream and he did all that, and then thinking that he got up. I know you guys are going to laugh, but let's say he's in a dream and the guy wakes up and he says, you know what? Maybe I really did that. Maybe I did the hitting with the stick and whatever the case may be. So what's the din to that? They're thinking in his mind that he did that.
So tell me, call me later.
Okay. No, it's just a hypothetical.
No, not you. Tell him to call me later.
Okay.
That's my other job that I do. But so that's according to Rabbi Yehuda, that hasra safek is loishma hasra. But according to the Tanakama, hasra safek is hasra, because mamanav shachig can be over. So therefore, that's going to be qualified as a valid one. That's machlekes Yehuda and the Tanakama. Now the Gemara actually says, wait a second, but Batanya in the Brisa, Yehuda he says pater evenness bevas achas. We just quoted Yehuda as saying that bevas achas will be chayav. Zachar says it's still ultimately suffix and be pater. Aya Brisa said you pater even if you do it at the same time. So the Gemara actually says, trei tanoim libid Rabbi Yehuda. Actually 2 tanoim according to Rabbi Yehuda means machlekes is what Rabbi Yehuda held. So the Gemara says, my time demand the pater. Well, how could you understand that the second Tana that holds your pater even if it happens at the same time? What do you mean that's a definite warning? The guy's taking a stick, he's about to hit both of them at the same time. So how can you say that it's going to be pater? So Amar Chanina says it's from a special limud. Because nema bracha lamata. It says, quote unquote, euphemistically bracha means cursing. We call birchas Hashem, when someone has some curses. So it says by the father and mother of a curse. But nema bracha lamata it says regarding Hashem, ki kala likav, like it says in Yikra, also about a prohibition on cursing. Now, mala, just like regarding Hashem, Shem b'shutfiz, when someone's cursing, there's no partnership. Hashem's the only one. And that's the prohibition. Avlamata, so too when it's regarding a parent, it's also Shem b'shutfiz, it's also when there's no partnership. So therefore, it's only when there's definitely this one, you can't be joining it with cursing another person for the liability. And b'iska shakola klala. The pasuk in Parsha Mishpatim puts the two psukim. There's actually just one pasuk in between, and Rashi says that there is one manda, there's a manda amar, and Sanhedrin that says it's still considered hekesh, even though there's a pasuk in between of the cursing of the father and about the hitting of the father. So just like the cursing has to be uniquely without any partnership, like by Hashem, so too for a parent, so too for hitting, and therefore, even though it's a definite warning, you know for sure he's hitting the parent, but since it's not for just the parent, it's also for this other man, who only one of them is his father, that's the special lima that opinion would be the whole, you can be potter, even though it's Asra Azvadi. So we have three different opinions regarding the halacha of this person who doesn't know which is his father regarding hitting or cursing. Either that it's going to be even by a somewhat hasra suffix, as long as it's both, then it's going to be, even though you don't know for sure which one, you'll be chayav, that's a Tanakama. Then you have Rabbi Huda holds, no, only bevas achas, not bezeh chazeh. And then you have that not even bevas achas is going to be liability because of a special comparison to lamala and then the lamata. Now we said in the Mishnah, the words were, this guy who doesn't know who his father is, both of his fathers are kanim. So what he does is he goes to the mishmar of this one and of that one, and even though he's not going to get a chalukah because they're going to say, "Who said you're from us?" Go to the other ones, and each one's going to reject him. But he does the avoid by both the mishmar. So the Gemara says, "Wait a second, since he's not getting a portion of the karbanas, lama oila. So why is he going up to do the avodah?" Says lama oila. Why is he going up to do the avodah? But he's going to say, "Being in the mitzvah, I have to do my mitzvah." You're saying lama oila, of course, even without a chalukah, of course he wants to do the mitzvah, do the avodah. And the rather says the Gemara, what our question was, is that a diuk, Allah lekatani. It doesn't say Allah bin mishmara that if he goes up to do his avodah in the mishmar, that ein chalukah doesn't get the portion. It's not. It doesn't say Allah. It's Elo oila. It says a daf game. He goes up. Sounds like bal karchai. Sounds like that even though he doesn't get a portion, we force him to do the avodah. Which Taisa says, how do you know that it's referring to him? Maybe the forcing is on the people of the Mishmar, that he could go up, even they don't want to come, he could still force his way in. He said, how do you know? Let me do it, because I'm not taking anything away from you. But that's how the Gemara understands that it sounds like we're forcing him. So remember, and he says, yeah, we actually force him because of the disgrace of the two families that are embarrassed about this man, that people are going to say, oh, he must be apostle to the Vaidah. So therefore, the people of the Mishmar, they could force him and tell him, look, people say you're from our family. Again, we don't know who his father is, the first father, the second father. You have to come and do Avodah by our Mishmar. Because you don't want people saying, who they're not going to see you doing by other Mishmaris, they can say, oh, must be apostle, the family, I feel the best, the chance in the best, Zaysizu Psulim, right? And so to the other Mishmar, they can say, they'll come do the Avodah, because you don't want people, they can force them to do it because of the Begam of Mishpach, that's why it's in Lashon of Oyla and not of Allah. Now, we said in the Mishnah, we said that he doesn't get a chalukah. But if let's say both of them were in the same mishmar, then I get a chalukah. Which the Gemara asks, we know that there were 24 mishmaros, which means all the count which each get a week. Every mishmar, 24-week cycle. Now, every mishmar was divided into 6 bati ovis. Every family in that larger family got a different day. And they would take the hides and the kachim that came that day. So the Gemara says, wait a second, why you tell me when there's 2 different mishmars that he doesn't get a chalukah? Because the other high mishmar, Matzle, goes to this mishmar, they say, bring your DNA sample, prove that you're from our brothers. So they can reject him. Plus the high mishmar, he goes to the other father's family, Matzle, they reject him. So mishmar chanami, so what does it help? That it's the same mishmar. So they're also Azal Hai Beis Abba Matzle, and as the Bach has other words, Azal Hai Beis Abba Matzle. Every family, even in the same mishmar, the same week, but it comes on Monday, he reports for duty. They say, "Who are you?" So I'm not from the family. So who said you're from our father? Go Tuesday, and Tuesday says, "Why don't you go Monday?" So what does it help that from the same mishmar? So the Gemara says, "You're right." What the Mishnah means to say is, if the two families were not only from the same mishmar, but also from the same base av, obviously the Zayda, we have 6 Zaydas over here, each Zayda gets a different day, but then from the fathers, which father? So it says in the same base Ab even, then shall take one portion, and that's what the Mishnah means to say. We shall return to you the 11th parak of Masechet Yevamos, parak Noisin al Hanusa, which some people are saying, I'll see you in 7.5 years, because we'll come back to that again. But I'll mention we should get back sooner, because even though it's a Shver Bleta, we'll come back very soon, which spoke about primarily different deviations in the halacha of Yibum, regarding Suffolk, regarding we had different cases that were different unique halachas regarding Yibum. That we begin now the other option, not that of Yibum, but the 12th parak mitzvahs chalitza. The mitzvah of chalitza, says the Mishnah, is, which that's obviously if there's no Yibum being done, then you do chalitza, is b'shlei shel hayad. That's done with 3 judges, and the truth is, even if the 3 judges are regular people that are not in the Sanhedrin, so going to ask, so what are you saying that the dayanim, if you could even have 3 regular people? Now it says the Mishnah, chalza b'mina. If let's say the chalitza was done with a minal, what's a minal? Says Rashi, it's from soft leather, which he says kain shalom, like ours, but that's not like necessarily ours. That then chalitza sikshir. The chalitza is going to be kosher. Now that wording sounds like, oh, if you do it, it's going to be kosher. Because Rashi says yes, like at you shouldn't use those soft leather shoes that they had, because as Gemara is going to explain later on, because of a minal could have a problem. Specifically a minal. The problem is, if you have a minal hamarupet, what's a minal hamarupet? The top comes off. So if the top comes off, it's not a valid shoe anymore. And that's something that can happen to that type of shoe called a minal, because it's soft leather, it could tear, and the top could come off, which is invalidating it. Now, in contrast, the primary chalitza is really supposed to be done with a sandal, which is hard leather, and it's cooked. Now, when such a leather shoe gets ruined, there's no way of fixing it. You can't even put it on. So there's no concern, because you're never going to wear it such a shoe. You're never going to do it with that. We want to do a shoe that for sure is going to have the criteria, because if it could get ruined, we're concerned that it might get ruined. So therefore, don't do it with minal. You know, with minal, okay, it's going to be kosher, but like I said, we don't want you to use that because you could run into a problem that could be there. Now, ba'ampilia, which is like a sock really, it's like a garment for the foot. Chalitza b'sula. There the chalitza is going to be invalid because you need something that's protective. Everyone knows you're wearing your socks. So why are you wearing your socks? Of course you walked on the spill, you should be wearing your shoes, right? You wear your socks, it doesn't really protect you. And the pasuk says in the Yevamos Daf, na'alai, she takes off his shoe. As Rashi says, na'al is always something that's protective. Like it says in the pasuk Yecheskel, va'an elcha tochash, which is the terminology of protecting, which that's made out of leather. But it's made out of fabric, that's not a valid shoe to do chalitza with. Now, if bisandal, which again is the primary one we want to do with, sheyesh le'ekev, if it has a sole, then kosher can be valid. She'en le'ekev, if it doesn't have a sole, then pasal it's invalid. Moreover, minar kubel mata, if you're taking off the shoe from beneath the knee, chalitza the chalitza is going to be valid. But minar kubel mala, if you're taking off the shoe from above the knee, how is that possible? So Rashi says, if let's say he was a veteran, his foot was cut off from the knee, and she's taking it off from the knee or above, so chalitza psula, the chalitza is going to be invalid, as we'll see the source for all these halachas. Says the Mishnah, let's say she does chalitza with the sandal that's not his. Or it's made out of wood. Or it's a left shoe on his right foot. So we're going to all these cases of chalitza shiur, it's going to be about chalitza. Because in contrast, says Rashi, if it's chalitza of the left foot, later on the parak and of Kavdam and Alf, we have a machlekes if that would be valid. But if it's a left shoe on the right foot, that's going to be okay. Chalitza begadol. Let's say she did chalitza with a large sandal that was not according to the measurement of his foot. But he could walk with it. Or a small one, but at least it covers the majority of his foot. So whether it's a little bit big or a little bit small, chalitza shiur, as long as one could wear it and it'll cover most of his leg, it's going to be valid chalitza. Okay, so now the Gemara goes back to the opening words of our Mishnah of our parak. Says the Gemara, since you say in the same breath, you say even if they're 3 regular people, it's going to be valid chalitza. So dayanin lamali. So why do you have to say that they're going to be 3 judges? Says the Gemara, it's coming to teach us. So we need to have 3 people who know how to recite for the yavam that he should say lechafatz lekafta, that they could say for the Yevama, Me'en Yevami Lahakim, Kachi Yas Le'ish. All these have to be in Lashon HaKodesh. So that's why we say they have to be like judges that they became able to recite for the Yavam and the Yevama what they have to say. Because as Taisa points out regarding all the other halachas, you don't have to be Bekin and be from the Sanhedrin, because even if they don't do it well, they could ask for Bekin. But Kriya says Taisa, if they don't know how to read, they're not going to be able to ask to a Bekin if they read well. It doesn't say exactly why, but they're not going. That won't help. So therefore, they have to be like the Yom, that they know how to read. It says you want to need law to turn around. This supports what we learned in the Brisa. Mitzvahs chalitza b'shleisha. Mitzvah chalitza is with 3. Sheyoydin lahakris kein dayan. They know how to read like judges. So again, it can be regular people, but in that they have to be like judges. He says b'chamisha. He says you need not 3 judges, you need 5 judges. So the Gemara explains the 2 opinions. My Tanakama, what's the reason of the Tanakama that says it's with 3? The Tanakama in the Brisa, Pasuk says in the Vav, it says va'olsi yevimte hashara, that the Yevam will come up to the gate El ha-zikenim, to the elders. Now that's plural, that's shnayim, that's 2. Now, we know Be'im Bez and Shakal, which Trace discusses, when do we say that? Do we always say that? But you can't have an equal bezin, and that's because you generally need to have odd numbers so that you'll be able to come to a conclusion. So you have to add on 1 more. So you see, that's 3, because you have the zikenim, which are 2, plus 1 is 3. But Rabbi Huda, that he says there's actually 5, because in the next pasuk, later on, it says, V'karulei ziknei irosh. The elders of his city call out to him. Now, ziknei yishnayim, that's also plural of 2. Now, we have zikenim that we mentioned the previous pasuk, that's also shnayim, that's also 2. Now, Rashi points out, what's where there's another pasuk? The niksha yevimto love le'eni has zikenim. Why is that not counted for another 2? Says Rashi, no, because that zikenim is going back on the previous zikenim. Which place doesn't like that pshat, because we find in Sanhedrin of Gimel, where the word Elikim is mentioned 3 times, we don't say that Elikim is from the previous Elikim. Rather, the Rebbe gives a different answer why that zikenim is necessary to teach a halacha, and therefore it's not extra to teach the Rebbe, similar to what the Gemara is going to shortly say. So be that as it may, we only have 2 extra words, ziknei and zikenim, that's 2 and 2. Now, vein bez and shakal, you can't have an equal amount. So Mr. you add another one, that's 5. So now the Gemara is going to keep on going back and forth, where, okay, but Tanakama, hi ziknei my other. What does he do with the ziknei? You're already using up the ziknei for, meaning he doesn't hold that ziknei adds on another 2. So what does he do with the ziknei? What's it coming to teach us? Oh, says he used the word ziknei to tell you a riboy that even if there's a stam elterid, just ziknei, and even if there are 3 regular people, that they don't have to be from the Sanhedrin. Which Tosfos wonders, said, why don't you learn that from the word zikenim itself? Why need ziknei? The Gemara in Saita says that ziknei means ziknei hashok. So Tosfos, because here it's difficult, it says hasha'ara, which sounds like the gate is the Sanhedrin. So therefore I need to have a special rebbe of ziknei to tell you that even 3 regular people. Okay, but it says Rabbi Yehuda had to know. Where does he know the halacha b'geitis? Again, because he already uses ziknei. This is where you have to keep the cheshbon back and forth like a ping pong, back and forth, just to remember who's saying what, because once this one has, right, because he's using ziknei, an extra 2. He holds 3. So what's he use ziknei for? He's using tel yadetis. Now, where does he know that halacha b'geitis from? So he nafkele mila'eni. He learns out from mila'eni. What's that? The master says, the pasuk says that he's going to bring his Yevama to him le'ene hazikenim, to the eyes of the elder, and she takes off his shoe from his leg, and so on and so forth. Now, what does le'ene teach? So that drasha we know is prat l'sumim. That excludes someone who's blind, where the yonim have to be able to see. Now, says the Gemara, from the fact that we need a darshan, from the word le'ene hazikenim, that the word le'ene is telling me that they have to be able to see to exclude if they're blind. Shmami nada v'ladoitis. From that drasha, says Rabbi Yehuda, I don't need the ziknei to tell you had yaitis. I can prove it to you from the drasha of le'ene. How could I prove this? Because the Isak that the Sanhedrin, if you would think to say that the judges have to be a Sanhedrin, why do I need a special meeting of le'ene to exclude blind people? What do you mean? I mean, the Tana Rabbi Yisrael nafki, you know from what Rabbi Yisrael taught, which is the Tana Rabbi Yisrael taught, just like the courts have to be totally unblemished when it comes to righteousness and justice, so the court has to be clean from any type of physical blemish. which is, as a continuum in base, because like it says in the pasuk in Shir Hashim, Kulach Yofara Yasi, you, my beloved, you're all beautiful, and there's no blemish in you. That's referring to the Sanhedrin. So therefore, if you would think to say that it has to be Sanhedrin, I wouldn't need a miyut of le'enei. Is doch gespart. You could infer from the fact that I need to have a miyut of blind. It's not Sanhedrin, because if I know Sanhedrin, I don't need a miyut because they can't have any blemishes. So okay, I think one goes back to the other one. The Tanakama. What does he do with le'enei? Because you don't need it to include hedyatis, which was the shtar Rabbi Yehuda was using from le'enei, because he already knows hedyatis from ziknei. Says yeah, but hahulik is Rabbi Yehuda, so which really actually teaching the primary halacha of the le'enei really. Amar Rabbi says the judges have to see the spittle. Meaning it's not coming to exclude the blindness. Meaning really the truth is the le'enei really is teaching that halacha. But the Gemara, which is really what the Gemara's answer really is. But it sounded like the Gemara's question was, well, you don't need the shpar, you don't need the inference, you don't need to tell me, had you but to get another from the ziknei. It says, yeah, but you need for the actual halacha itself, that the judge have to be able to see the spittle, the konafim the yevamot that's coming out of the mouth of the yevamot. The chsilik says, le'enei has a kain that the eyes of the elders, that they could see the spittle, that's what you need it for. It says, wait a second, that you're right, Rabbi Yehuda also needs it for that. What are you telling me that it's teaching me this halacha of hedyaitis, but you don't. You need it just to tell you the actual halacha of that they have to see it. So where does he know this halacha of hedyaitis? Says the Gemara, Nafka Mibi Yisrael. There's a passage that says Lahakam La'achab Shem Yisrael, that to go and establish a name for his brother amongst the Jewish people. Which, what does it mean, Bi Yisrael? Is Yisrael Koldu, which means say amongst the Jewish people, meaning that's the court. And that you see the court could be any yidla, that even a regular person of a Yisrael doesn't have to be. That's his shame. He's making the name of Yisrael amongst the judges, that they could be even regular people. Ve'idach, I think one goes back to the Tanakama. Hi Yisrael, what does he do with it? Not going to teach Yatis. He knows Yatis from Ziknei. Says he needs to teach something else, which is, what does Yisrael come to teach us? That the chalitza has to be bebezin shal Yisrael, has to be in the court of Jews, meaning not in the court of converts. That's what B'Yisrael has come to teach. Now, V'idach, what does Rabbi Yehuda say? He says, B'Yisrael chiniksev. That I know from a different Yisrael, which is a pasuk of V'nikra Shmai B'Yisrael Beis Chalutz Hana. There it also says, V'nikra Shmai B'Yisrael. What's Nikra Shmai B'Yisrael Beis Chalutz Hana? Yeah, because the who's around them, who's the court, those are Israel, not Ger. That's how he knows it. Now, V'idach, what's the other man going to say? Again, remember ping pong, going back and forth. Remember how each one is doing with the other one. Oh no, that Yisrael over there. No, my brother get down. That you need to teach something else. What's that come to teach? That we learned in the Brisa. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Pamachas in years from Reb Tarfon." One time we were sitting in front of Reb Tarfon. Yevamos and Yevamos came along to do a chalitza. And he said to us, "Anu kulchem, all of you, I want you to respond when we do this procedure to say chalutz hana." Now, how do you know that? That you know from V'nikra Shmai B'Yisrael Beis Chalutz Hana. That all the Jews that are around, whoever's around there at the time of the Chalitza, have to say Chalutz Hana. That's what you learn from B'Yisrael. That every Yidel over there has to say Chalutz Hana. Now V'idach, what does Yehuda? How does he know that halacha? V'nikra Nafka. He knows it from the words V'nikra, not B'Yisrael, because Yisrael is teaching you the other halacha that has to be Bezin Shal Yisrael, not Bezin Shal Ger. He knows from V'nikra. From a Nikra Shema B'Yisrael, but Nikra is that who should recite? Everyone that's there should recite. So, okay. So we figured out these different interpretations of how does each one know the other one's halacha as we went along. But now the Gemara goes back to a basic question. El Me'ata, if that's the case, if you recall, we said that one man says 3.
What's the other one do with the Nikra?
Right. So Taisa says that from the Nikra itself, you wouldn't know that they all have to respond. You would think it's only going to the judges. And from the Yisrael, that tells me that every Yidel over there. So that Mandama says the Nikra is not extra, it's the Nikra Shemai, I would think is going on the judges. And then the Yisrael includes every Yidel. So now the Gemara asks, El Miyata, but if that's the case, that you told me that one mandam says 3, one says 5, really it's 2 or 4, but you have to add on another one from Zikanium, and if you have another Ziknei. But basically, if you have an extra word that is telling you a plural, you were adding on another two. Zikenim, ziknei. If that's the case, then what do you do with kahu? That's also shnayim. What's with debru? That's also shnayim. Achanami, you can expound older plural terminologies to add on another two judges. So the Yehuda Hari Kantish, according to Yehuda, that means you have to have 9. Rabban Hari Kantish, you have to have 7. Because you said zikenim, ziknei, so every time it says plural, v'kavu and v'dibru, and like, why are you saying this? Must be another 2. So the Gemara says, no, all those you need to teach actual halachas, and they're not extra to teach you another 2 judges. Because like I learned in the Brisa, when it says v'kavu lai, that they call out to him, means a relay shluchim, and not their agents. Which I saw the whole discussion, one going on for me that you don't say shluchim kamaisai. But akapanim, that's teaching that you need to say that they have to call out to him, not their agents. And Medibra, when they say they speak to him, what do you mean they speak to him? Yeah, it's telling you there's a certain speech they give him, and not like an extra 2 words to say, oh, there's more the other 2 judges that are being added in the plural over here. Because when it says they speak to him, Alama comes to teach shemasian loy etza hagenesle. They give him appropriate counsel, meaning shemu yelad vizikena. If he's a young man and the Yevama is an old woman who they never had children. His older brother, that's like mamash from the previous dar, is 25 years older than him, and then this elderly woman now is falling for Yibam. Or let's say Huzak and Hiyalad, or maybe just the other way around. He's an elder brother, he's already has a big, huge family, he's Einiklich already, and his youngest brother is like was younger, don't have any children, and his wife is a very young woman. So Amalei, they tell him, Malachayt's a yalda. What are you going to a young girl? Malachayt's a what are you going to an elderly woman? Go to those that are similar to you. Don't bring in strife into your house. So that's what the Dibra was coming there, just to give him good advice. Say, don't marry such a huge age gap.
Wisdom for an older person, so there's wisdom there. That's why they went to an older person.
Yeah, that's where the judges are giving him advice, telling him, don't think that, grace a mitzvah over here, that you can do Yibam. Amal, better not to do the mitzvah that's going to cause you that difficulty. Do the other mitzvah, chalitza. Nachman. He says, halacha, we had this machlekes, now the Gemara is coming out in the maskana. Halacha is chalitza b'shleisha. Halacha is that, although we have machlekes at 3 or 5, chalitza is with 3. Why? Since we have, in our Mishnah, anonymously, we say mitzvah chalitza b'shleisha. So the anonymous Mishnah says like that mandama that says 3, not 5. So, and actually Case points out, why didn't you just say because Yochid Ram Malacha Kirab? I mean, the Rabbin was the Rabban, they said 3. Yehuda was the Das Yochid, he said 5. Why didn't you say Yochid Ram Malacha Kirab? So it says no, that we wouldn't rule like the Rabban because Mistaber time of the Yochid. Rabbi Yehuda's rationale is actually logical, that he learns out the extra ziknei, whatever. So for that we actually would have ruled like Rabbi Yehuda, but because of an anonymous Mishnah, that's why we say halacha is like the Rabbanan. But then says, Rabbi Nachman says, if that's the case, then you tell me the halacha is chalitza b'shleisha because you have a stam masnitin. So mian should also be when the girl who got married by her brother or mother, when she was an orphan, that she could just walk out. That should also be with 3. The non, because we learned in the Mishnah, anonymous Mishnah in the first parak of Sanhedrin. The Mishnah says, Hamin b'chalitza b'shleisha. Refusal and chalitza is with 3. Now, Tais actually points out, what's the Gemara asking? Where you think because you have every stam masnitin, you think we could pass the halacha like that, like a stam masnitin? So Tais says, no, first of all, chalitza and are very similar. Interesting, chalitza and are both things that the woman herself does that lets her go out. She walks out, chalitza takes her to the shul. And additionally, chalitza and are always taught together. So that's what the Gemara is asking, ihachi. That if you tell me chalitza b'shleisha because stam masnitin, then me should also have the same halacha criterion that also the stam masnitin should tell me. And we have a stam masnitin in Sanhedrin that says me and the chalitza is with 3. So that's an anonymous Mishnah. She should also say that the halacha mean should be with 3 judges. And maybe you can say, okay, yeah, was fixed. Yeah, the zalbazach take nechanami. Stam masnitin by miyun would tell you 3, so it would be 3. But you can't say that because by the time we're in the Brisa says miyun. What's the halacha? B'shamer, they say bezdin mumcha. It has to be a professional court. So they say, look, the bezdin, it could be in the Sanhedrin, or b'shloi bezdin, it could even be not in the bezdin, and she could still do miyan. And el ma'idin, but however, b'shamer and Basil agree, shatzach shleish has to be with 3 people. However, they say it's valid even with 2 people, 2 judges. From a Yisra, but Rabbi Nachman says halacha is like that peer that says all you need is 2. Why? You have a stam masnitin that says that means b'shleisha. And just like you say the halacha is chalitza b'shleisha because you have a samastin, why say something for miyun? Says the Gemara, no, it's different. Hasam over there by miyun, you have chad stam. You have one anonymous mishnah that says we're three, which is in Sanhedrin. B'hacha, however, over here by chalitza, you have treis tami. You have two anonymous mishnahs. You have our mishnah, and you have the mishnah Sanhedrin, which mentioned miyun and chalitza b'shleisha. So there you have two anonymous mishnahs. Okay, then we'll say halacha like a stamastin. Here we have one for miyun. We won't necessarily say that, and then we'll say the kidding with two. But says the Gemara, what do you mean? But Hasan Nami, they also by mean you have treis tamin, and you also have two anonymous mishnahs. Why? Because now we learn the mishnah that's in Perek Ketzad, which, if let's say you have a chacham that says makes a woman forbidden in her neder, where he says, sorry, I can't find a pesach b'neder, you can be forbidden to your husband. The halacha is not allowed to marry her because he might be doing it in a way that okay, she's not going to be able to stay married with him, and he's going to marry her. But the Mishnah said, "Miyana esher chaltza b'fanav." But let's say she did miyun or chalitza in front of him, then you say they can marry her, and there's no concern about what people are going to murmur and say, oh, he was the one that was on her the chalitza best, and now he's marrying her because that's what the best. In other words, he's not an individual to say that oh, he was doing it intentionally as a way to get her. Because it's a court, and we're not suspecting the other two judges are in cahoots with him. Now the thing is, but it's saying that mina shechatza b'fanav he can marry her. Why? Because it's a bezdin. Now we know the word bezdin always refers to three. So you see another anonymous mishnah that's saying that min is with three. So why are you saying min is with two? So Ella says the Gemara, rather you're right. Not a different difference. Hasam over there by min it's trace time. It's only two anonymous mishnahs in Perek Ketzad and in Sanhedrin. Hacha by chalitza we have tchalasas we have three because you just realized we add on another one for chalitza. The one that add on for miyan says in that one itself also miyan shechatza b'fanav. So you have the anonymous mishnah about over here in our mishnah of chalitza b'shleisha. You have in Sanhedrin and you have in Perek Ketzad. So you have three. Okay, so three will say halacha is like this. This is well, come on, mechti. Let's see hastam avastam. They're both anonymous mishnahs ruling like them. Mali chadstam, mali treistam, mali plesa. What do you tell me? There's in between one anonymous mishnah, two anonymous mishnah, three mishnah. Why are you saying that by chalitza you're ruling three, and by miyan, although you have two anonymous mishnahs, you're not ruling three. You're ruling that it's enough for two judges. So Elam Rav Nachman Yitzchak, he says a different reason. He says that the reason is because Hayil, since the halacha of chalitza is v'stam b'makam achleikas. You say the halacha anonymously in the actual Mishnah that brings a dispute. In that Mishnah Sanhedrin, Yehuda disagrees regarding something else. But on this halacha he doesn't disagree. Obviously he retracted. But by Miyan, we don't have a stamma b'makam achleikas. Because those Tanoim, Rabbi Yisi, Yehuda, and Rabbi Yisi, they are not brought there regarding any other machlekes to say that, oh, from the fact that they don't disagree by this, they agree over there. Because it's not. The Mishnah in Masechet Sanhedrin that we quoted before says like this: Smichas Ekeinim regarding the elders leaning on the parhelm davish al tzibur, and the egla rufa regarding the measurements that they need for the egla rufa when they find a dead person and we're not sure which city is the closest. That requires b'shleisha. That's three judges that did Rabbi Yisi. Yehuda he says b'chamisha that you need 5. Now remember, Rabbi Yehuda is the one who said by chalitza that in our halach of our Mishnah you need to have 5. So he's being quoted within that Mishnah that you need 5 for egla rufa and smichas ekeinim. But then listen to the next halacha. Hachalitza v'ami'unin b'shleisha. Look at Rabbi Yehuda. What do you mean? We quote him on the Menalef that he disagrees. He doesn't disagree over there. He already disagreed once before about chalitza and 5, and here he's not saying anything. Ooh, that's why we rule chalitza is with 3, because Rabbi Yehuda, who is the Baal Plukta, suddenly he's not saying anything. So he retracted, and that's what we mean, not because Stam Masni. You're right, not Mishnah doesn't mean that Allah is going to be like that. And then I mean, although we have 2 Stam Mishnahs saying that for 3, we could rule that it's number 2. But by chalitza, where he disagreed, and now he's not disagreeing, therefore we're going to say that the halacha is going to be that it requires 3, because even Rabbi Yehuda is retracting and agreeing to that. Now, Amar Rabba, more halachas on this halacha of chalitza. Rabba says, Tzrichid Dayani, the judges are required lemikveh duchta. They have to set a place that's intentionally for the chalitza. That's like it says in the Devarim. But also, Yevimta Hasha'ara. His Yavam will go up to the gate. The gate sounds like the place that was prepared for this. And let's get into the elders. Now, Rav Papa Rav Hund ben Yeshua, Avdi Uda B'chamisha. They did a chalitza with 5 people. Everyone says, wait a second, come on, who's that like that they had 5 judges for chalitza? Could be Yehuda? But we just quoted just before, he said even he himself retracted. So come on, you're right. was lefarsume milsa. It was to go ahead and publicize that she's a chalutza, and either, as Rashi says, that she shouldn't get married to a kohen because she's a chalutza, so we want people to know that, or that people should come and marry her to know she's available, she's on the market. Either way, that's what they did with 5, not because halacha required it. Halacha required it. It's to publicize it. Another story the Gemara brings is Rav Ashi, Ikla Lebi Rav Kahana. He went to the yeshiva of Kahana, and Amalei said to him, Salik Mar Legaban Lemalui Bechamisha. Oh, Gishmak, good that the master came to us, now you filled the quota of 5. So the Gemara explains this, again, Amar Rav Kahana, he says, I was in front of Rabbi Yehuda. Amalei said to me, Ta Sak, come up, Lazirz the Kani, to the bundle of the reeds, where they went to sit over there for the purposes of Chalitza. Let's do it Bechamisha to combine for the number 5. So Amrullah, they said to him, Lamali Chamisha, what do you need 5 for? Amrullah said to them, just to publicize, you're right, you don't have to have 5, 3 is enough. Again, we have a designated place, and 3 would be enough. We're doing 5 to publicize it. Similarly, Rav Shmuel by Yehuda, Avakoi Kamid Rav Yehuda. His brother Rav Yehuda, Amalei said to him, Sak, come up, Tal Lazirz the Kane, come to the pile of reeds. Let's start with Bechamisha to combine for 5, because we want the first one, we want to publicize that she's a chalutza. However, this segues into a different halacha. Amalei said to him, yeah, but Tanina, we learned this before, we quoted this brisa, that when it says in the pasuk, Be Yisrael, we said there has to be Bebezn Yisrael, has to be a Jewish court. Bebezn is given not by a court of convicts, converts, not convicts. Va'ano gerana, and I am a ger, which Rashi points out, says to discuss this, we'll see later on, that him and his father converted, and therefore he's invalid for chalitza, as we'll explain. What's the problem if not only is he a ger, but that meaning that his father he converted with him, means to say that he was neither his father or his mother were Jewish. Both of his parents were obviously converts. So he says, so then obviously I can't do it with the chalitza because it has to be Bezn Shal Yisrael, not Bezn Shal Ger. And I'm a ger. So Rabbi Yehuda, he says, wow, because when Rabbi Shloimy Yehuda, who he was the one that was a ger, we could actually extract money based on his word. He's so trustworthy that here he's invited to be part of the chalitza process. It's a big, and you say, no, I can't, I'm a ger. See how trustworthy he is, that we can even collect money based on his word. It says, it's like, I think really collect money based on his word? It says he has to have 2 witnesses to collect. So El says, what we mean to say is, we could ruin a document based on his word. Meaning, if he says, I know that this was paid up, we're not going to be able to collect with it. Which Taisa has a whole discussion regarding what does this terminology mean. But that's how Rashi explains, means to say that, yeah, we don't collect, maybe we won't hear it, but we won't collect based on his word because he's so trustworthy. Now, relating to this idea that we just said that a ger cannot be on the bezin of chalitza, so the Gemara just goes through a quick run through. Amar Rava, as we can see with Kavazim and Aleph, ger dones chaveiroi. A ger could judge his friend, which Rashi says even capital punishment disagrees, but he could do that even from biblical law, because as Rashi explains, regarding monetary law, a ger can not only judge his fellow ger, he can even judge a regular Yisrael. As the measure of teaching Sanhedrin on the base, everyone's kosher to judge monetary payments, and when the Gemara says, what does Hakol come to teach? It comes to include a ger. So we're telling you he could judge his friend, must be, says Rashi, for even capital punishment. Shnei like says the pasuk in Devar. It says, Saim tasim alecha melech, you should surely place upon you a king Hashem Lekecha, by that Hashem your God will choose him. Mikar b'chicha tasim alecha melech, from amongst your brothers, you should place him a king. So Rashi explains that a judge is included in the categories of the qualifications of a king, because it says the pasuk in Mishlei, Melech b'mishpat yamet arts. The king will, with judgment, will maintain the earth, which you see like the judging is what a king does, which is what a dayan does. But actually, a further drush of this says the Gemara in Ksubis is that if the judge is similar to a king, that he doesn't need anything from anyone, then yamet arts. So therefore, it's a reference to a judge, just that he should be like a king, that he's not biased. Additionally, it says Soim Tasim. It says the word Soim many times in the pasuk, which tells you all the Mesim Shatemesim, all the appointments that you make should only be Mekar V'chicha, has to be from amongst your brethren. So therefore it says the Gemara, what we learn from this is Alecha would mean Mekar V'chicha. Yes, for you a Jew, your judges have to be from your brethren, from a fellow Jew. Av a ger, then it's chaver ger. But a ger could judge his fellow ger. That's one part. Now, If his mother was Jewish, then Danafal Yisrael, then he could judge even a Jewish man. But in Chalitza, that's actually Aviv V'imam Yisrael. So there's 3 levels. If he's a full convert, then he could judge biblically, at least for Din Nefashos, only his fellow ger. If his mother's Jewish, he could judge even a Jewish man, because that's considered Mekar B'chicha. But for Chalitza, that's why it was important, like we said, the Huva of the Niskera that we mentioned from Rashi before, that you need to have both parents have to be Jewish. Like it says in Pasuk, "V'nikru Shmoi Bi Yisrael." You call out his name amongst the Jewish people. Sounds like, says Rashi, that it has to be Yisrael, Mekal Tzaddim from all the sides, and therefore he's not going to be valid to do the Chalitza, to be the Dayan, unless both of his parents were Jewish. Thank you to any time.